Good evening, dear brothers and sisters in Christ. I welcome you with deep love in this sacred moment of dusk. What a blessing that you've come to this refuge of faith and comfort. I invite you to settle in, breathe peacefully, and allow each word to bring tranquility to your spirit as you prepare to rest under the loving gaze of the Good Shepherd. This evening prayer is completely inspired by Psalm 23, where David reveals to us God's infinite tenderness as our shepherd who provides everything. This psalm proclaims a transforming truth. The Lord is our guide, our protector, who restores our soul and leads us down paths of righteousness. Tonight, we're going to surrender to the Good Shepherd every burden that weighs on our heart, every fear that troubles us, every battle we cannot fight alone. This is a time to release the worries of the day, receive divine comfort, and fully trust that the Lord Himself shepherds our life. Before we begin, I invite you to write this phrase in the comments as an act of faith. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Write it so that together we strengthen our confidence and form a community filled with heavenly hope. Declare that the Lord is your guide and that tonight you rest in His protected flock. If this message blesses your life, give us a like so that more souls can find this prayer and receive the same peace. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any prayer that will renew your heart and strengthen your faith each night. I recommend listening until the end. Every word has been meditated upon to quiet your soul, help you release what weighed on you today, and prepare your spirit for a deep and restorative rest under the care of the Good Shepherd, as Psalm 23 declares. Blessed Carlo Acutis used to say that daily prayer is our internet connection with heaven. That's why we've prepared a daily prayer guide for the entire month, inspired by his words and his example of faith. Find it right now in the first pinned comment and start each day with a prayer that will bring peace, strength, and light to your life and your family. What if tonight wasn't like all the others? What if right now, while everyone sleeps, heaven decides to begin something new in your life? There are nights that seem ordinary, but they're not. Nights when without warning God begins a silent, deep, miraculous work. You don't need to see a sign or experience something supernatural. You only need to open your heart and allow Him to enter as your eternal shepherd. Imagine for a moment that Jesus approaches you with the tenderness of a shepherd who knows each one of his sheep. He doesn't say anything at first, He's just present. He looks at you with compassion, with infinite patience, with that peace that surpasses all understanding, and in that gentle silence, change begins to happen. Not because you do something extraordinary, but because He has come as your heavenly guide. And when the Good Shepherd arrives, nothing remains the same. This prayer is not a bedtime routine, it's a door that can open a different dawn. A dawn where fear dissipates, where anxiety is silenced, where your soul begins to heal because the Lord shepherds you. Maybe today you didn't hear a clear answer from God. Maybe you feel that nothing is changing, but that doesn't mean heaven is silent. Because many times the greatest thing God does happens while we sleep. While you rest, He is working on your behalf, restoring your soul, guiding you along paths of righteousness. Before continuing, do something simple but powerful. Write this phrase in the comments as a declaration of faith. The Lord restores my soul tonight. And if you can, give this video a like as an act of surrender, not out of habit, but as a symbol that you too are waiting for God to guide your steps. Because tonight God is going to shepherd your life in a new way. Night has a particular way of revealing what we avoid during the day. When the noise fades, when the routine ends, when the world seems to rest, your mind remains active. And it's in that silence where the heaviest thoughts often appear. It's not just about insomnia, it's a restlessness of the soul. That feeling that something is missing, that something hurts, that something isn't right, even though everything looks normal on the outside. During the day, we learn to hide it, to keep ourselves busy so we don't think, to smile so we don't worry anyone. But at night, there are no filters. There the heart speaks clearly, and what it says many times is, I'm tired of walking alone, I don't know where I'm going. Maybe nobody knows, maybe even you try not to think much about it, but God knows. And what tonight is revealing to you is not your weakness, it's your need for a shepherd. Because the soul also wears down when it has to find the way by itself. Maybe there are situations in your family that are stealing your peace, divisions, hurtful words, conflicts you don't know how to resolve, people who should support you but hurt you instead. Maybe at your job there are those who speak badly of you without reason, who close doors out of envy, who twist your words to harm you. Maybe in your finances, you're being victimized by injustice. People who owe you and don't pay, situations where you were honest, but others took advantage, losses you didn't deserve. Maybe your health is being attacked, your body is weak, your mind is exhausted, and you feel that something invisible is fighting against your peace. If you've walked through dark valleys, if you've crossed shadows of death without knowing how to get out, rest in this promise. As it is written in Psalm 23 verse 4, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." Tonight you surrender those dark valleys, and God Himself guides you toward the light. And when that happens, there is no anxiety, no distraction that relieves. What the soul asks for is true rest, not sleeping just to sleep, but releasing what weighs inside. And you know what's most beautiful? That God doesn't wait for you when you've already solved everything. He shows up right now in the middle of chaos, in the middle of doubt, in the middle of that anguish you couldn't explain to anyone today. You're not here by accident. This prayer is not just another coincidence, it's a divine call. It's as if heaven said, "I know what you carry inside. I know who hurt you. I know what they took from you. Don't hide anymore. Just come." Because tonight you don't need to be strong. You only need to be honest. Tell the Lord, "I'm here, I'm broken, I'm tired of walking alone." And that is enough for Him to begin shepherding you. Don't ignore what you're feeling now. Don't repress it. God doesn't reject those who approach with a naked soul. On the contrary, those are the ones He embraces first. As it is written in Psalm 23 verses 1 and 2, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters." Tonight God is saying, "I will guide you to places of rest. I will restore your soul." There are moments when the real miracle is not that something changes outside, but that something calms down inside you. Tonight can be that moment. You lay down, but you didn't rest. Your body is motionless, but your soul remains on guard, as if it can't turn off alert mode, and nobody notices. From the outside, everything seems calm, but inside there are thoughts competing for your attention. Questions that don't turn off, memories that repeat over and over, like a movie you don't know how to stop. Sometimes the deepest fatigue is not felt in the muscles, but in the mind. It's not the body that needs to sleep, it's the soul that needs to stop. Stop worrying about debts you don't know how to pay. Stop thinking about that person who betrayed you. Stop reliving that conversation where you were unjustly accused. Stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours. Has it happened to you? You're lying down, but you're reviewing every conversation of the day, every decision, every mistake, every question that has no answer. And there in the darkness your own doubts are amplified. But tonight God wants to tell you something that can change everything. You're not alone in this silent battle. He has seen every thought that stole your peace. He knows the fears you didn't share with anyone. And the most beautiful thing is that He doesn't come to judge you for feeling what you feel. He comes to shepherd you right there, where you can't take it anymore. Maybe today was one of those days when you tried hard to appear stable. You showed smiles, said everything's fine without thinking, and fulfilled everything you had to do. But inside, you feel like you're on the edge. You don't need to keep pretending before God. He doesn't need an edited version of you. What He most desires tonight is for you to show Him your heart just as it is and to surrender every burden to Him. If you've been hurt by slander or unjust judgments, remember what Psalm 23 verse 5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows." Tonight, the Good Shepherd prepares a table of provision and restoration for you, even in front of those who have hurt you. And no, it's not a sign of weakness to acknowledge you can't take anymore. It's an act of faith. Because when you surrender to the Good Shepherd, He acts. When you release the path, He guides you. And when you fall into His arms, it's not defeat, it's salvation. Do something tonight. Just breathe. Close your eyes for a few seconds and say quietly, "Lord, You are my shepherd. Guide me." You don't need a perfect speech. You don't need tears or intense emotions, just sincerity. Because sometimes the most powerful prayer is simply that, a whisper that says, "Shepherd me," and a surrender that changes the course of the night. There's an idea many of us have without realizing it, that we first have to solve everything before we can rest, that rest is earned when everything is under control, when there are no more problems, no active enemies, no pending situations. But that's a lie that only steals peace. The truth is different. Peace doesn't come when everything is fine outside. Peace comes when, despite everything, you decide to trust that the Lord shepherds you. Trust when you don't have all the answers. Trust when you don't see the path clearly. Trust even when you don't understand why things haven't changed yet. Trust when the family is divided, when finances are in crisis, when your health is weak, when work is unfair. That trust is what transforms the night. That silent faith, sometimes weak but sincere, is what opens the door to real rest. God is not asking you to solve anything tonight. He's not waiting for you to resolve your future before sleeping. He doesn't ask you to face alone whoever hurt you. All he wants is for you to surrender in his presence. Yes, surrender, but not like someone who gives up, but like someone who gives themselves into the hands of the most faithful shepherd that exists. Imagine that God extends his arms to you tonight. He doesn't demand, doesn't accuse, doesn't pressure. He just waits. And while you struggle with your thoughts, he whispers to your heart, "Son, daughter, just rest. I shepherd you. I am your guide and your comfort." That phrase may sound simple, but it has the power to disarm fear, to calm the mind, to silence anxiety. Maybe nobody taught you to rest in God as your shepherd. Maybe you think that's only for spiritual people, for those who don't fail, for those who have impeccable faith. But it's not like that. Surrendering your paths to God is for the weary, for those who cried in silence, for those who don't know how to continue, for those who need a safe place to leave everything. And that safe place is his presence as your heavenly shepherd. Tonight, you don't need to have strength. You only need surrender. Take a pause now. Put your hand on your chest and repeat slowly, "Lord, today I don't need to find the path. I only need you to guide me." That declaration may seem small, but it can be the key that changes your night. Because when you trust in God as your shepherd, he acts with power. There is something deeply spiritual in these silent hours, something that doesn't happen in the midst of noise or movement, something that only happens when you stop, when everything turns down its volume and when the soul finally dares to speak. Maybe you never thought about it this way, but tonight can be much more than an end to the day. It can be a heavenly encounter, an invisible place where God as loving shepherd takes your life and guides you. You don't need candles, temples, or complicated words. You only need sincerity. You only need to bring what's inside you and present it before God. What do you bring today? Weariness over debts, disappointment over betrayal, uncertainty about the future, fear about your health, pain over family conflicts, anguish over injustices at work. A mix of all that? No matter how much it seems, God understands every part. And tonight, if you allow it, he can do something new with that. You didn't come here just to hear words. You came because there's a cry in your soul, a whisper that says, "I don't want to end this day the same as I lived it. I don't want to keep walking alone." And that whisper God has already heard. When you decide to turn your night into a moment of surrender, something begins to change, not outside yet, but inside, in that deep place where only he can reach. And it's there where true faith is planted. Not that faith that depends on strong emotions, but that silent faith that says, "I don't see anything, but I still believe the Lord guides me." That faith is gold to God. That faith is what activates the eternal. Make this night an altar of surrender. Don't wait for everything to change before trusting. Trust now as you are, with your doubts, with your weaknesses, with your humanity. Tell God in your own words or with this, "Lord, I don't have much, but here I am. Guide me, shepherd me." And while you make that small prayer, all of heaven bends down to listen to you, because your voice, even if it's low, has eternal echo when it rises with sincerity. Tonight can be different, not because something external changes place, but because you decided to surrender your path to the one who knows how to guide in the invisible. And that's where change begins, not at dawn, but now. There are nights when we try to solve the unsolvable. We go to bed with a restless mind, trying to find solutions that don't depend on us, thinking over and over about scenarios that don't yet exist, anguished about a tomorrow that hasn't even arrived. And without realizing it, We load the night with the weight of the day and of the day that hasn't even started. But what if tonight wasn't for solving? What if tonight was only for surrendering? Yes, surrendering. Not like someone who surrenders in defeat, but like someone who trusts in a God who doesn't sleep and who shepherds paths you can't see. Maybe there are things you won't understand now. People in your family who won't change tonight. Debts that won't be paid tomorrow. Doors at work that won't open immediately. Slander that's still circulating. And that hurts, I know, but that anguish is not your enemy. It's just a reminder that there are things that escape your control and can only be trusted to God as your shepherd. Why insist on controlling what you can't change tonight? Take a pause now. Look at everything you're carrying inside. Recognize what weighs on you, what troubles you, what steals your peace, and make a spiritual gesture. Surrender it. Maybe you won't say it out loud, but say it with your soul. Lord, I surrender this family situation that hurts me. I surrender these finances I don't know how to resolve. I surrender this illness that weakens me. I surrender those people who accuse me without reason. Shepherd my life. That's surrendering, and in that surrender there's relief. Because when you release, He takes. When you stop pushing, He begins to move. When you stop, He advances. It's ironic, isn't it? We think advancing is insisting, but sometimes advancing is simply trusting. And trusting is saying, Lord, I don't know how or when, but I know You guide me. If these words are reaching you tonight, if your soul feels identified with this call, do more than listen. Act in faith. Give this video a like as a sign of surrender. It's not just a gesture on the screen, it's a spiritual declaration. It's your way of telling God, I trust You as my shepherd, more than my plans, more than my strength, more than my control. And when you do that, heaven responds. Right now in the comments, the Lord is my shepherd. Do it like someone signing a heavenly covenant, like someone accepting that they're no longer alone on the path. There's a surrender that's not made with words, but with the body, with the soul, with silence. It's like entering a green valley, a gentle but deep valley, a valley that doesn't frighten but restores. There are those who approach God afraid of being dragged away, thinking He's going to take control by force. But no, God doesn't force, He invites. And tonight that green valley is before you. You can't see it, but you can feel its call. It whispers to you, come as you are. Don't resist. Surrender to the flow of my guidance. I shepherd you. Maybe you spent the day swimming against the current. You got tired of holding everything with your strength, and now you're here, on the edge of something new. Not a new problem, not a new demand, a new way of resting. Resting is not just closing your eyes, it's stopping fighting inside. It's saying, Lord, I'm not going to search for the path anymore. I surrender to Your guidance. That's surrendering, not fleeing, not abandoning, but trusting that God as your heavenly shepherd knows more than your attempts. In that valley, you don't need to know where you're going. You only need to allow yourself to be guided by His will. And when you do that, something changes. The pressure goes down, the mind quiets, the soul aligns, because you're no longer pushing, you're being guided and shepherded. And that feeling can't be bought, it can only be experienced with faith. Do something now that your soul will understand better than your mind. Imagine entering that valley of grace. The pastures are not arid or dangerous. They're green, they're nutritious, they're restorative. And while you surrender, you don't lose yourself, you find yourself, because God's guidance doesn't leave you lost, it leads you home. There are days when your soul seems to lose its north. You don't really know where you're going. Emotions push you, circumstances drag you, and you end the day without feeling like yourself. Has it happened to you? You feel like you did a lot, but nothing essential. That you talked with many, but not with yourself. That you took care of everything, but disconnected from the most important thing, your spiritual center. And now in the middle of this night, when everything is quiet and there are no more external demands, God offers you something precious, a reorientation. Yes, like a sheep that has moved away from the flock and can no longer find the way back. Your soul needs a new course, a reference point that doesn't change, a voice that doesn't get confused with all the others. That voice is God's as your shepherd. And tonight, if you're willing, you can let Him return you to the fold. How? You don't need to understand everything. You only need to stop, close your eyes and say, reorder my interior, Lord. Guide the paths that led me astray. Realign me with You. It's not a long prayer, it's an act of gentle surrender, like someone surrendering their course and saying, I don't know where to go anymore, shepherd me, guide me. Because God not only guides your steps, He also straightens your heart and restores the paths that led you away from the fold. And when that happens, everything starts to flow again. Your thoughts organize themselves, your priorities become clear, your peace returns, and the weariness doesn't disappear, but stops weighing so much because you already know who guides you. Do something symbolic now. Put your hand on your chest, breathe deeply, and repeat, You are my shepherd, Lord. You guide me. And while you do that, God is realigning your soul, because He doesn't want you to get lost. He wants to walk with you in the right direction, guiding you to still waters. Sometimes life fills up so much with noise, pending tasks, bad news, heavy conversations, that your soul gets saturated and no longer functions with clarity. Like a system that blocks, like a screen that flickers without responding, like a heart that beats but doesn't advance. Have you felt that way? You're still standing, still doing what you should, but inside you're stuck. Your peace doesn't flow, your mind doesn't stop, your faith doesn't find space to breathe. And then the night comes, not just as physical rest, but as a heavenly offering of restart. God knows when you need to start over. He sees when your emotions are saturated and doesn't judge you for it. He gives you a way out, restart under His guidance. You don't need to undo everything you did today. You don't need to have all the answers before sleeping. You only need to allow tonight to restart your interior under God's shepherding. Like when you turn off a device and when you turn it back on, everything returns to order. God is offering that for you now, not as punishment, but as loving care. So you don't carry tomorrow's weight of today, so you wake up with a lighter soul, with fresh ideas, with restored faith, knowing that the Lord shepherds you. And for that, there's a gesture that can symbolize your willingness. Give this video a like as if saying, Lord, I accept your restart. Erase what hinders me and renew what I am. Guide my life. Because when you accept that you need to start again under God's protection, He not only cleans your emotional memory, He updates your spirit with His peace, His wisdom, and His presence as your heavenly shepherd. And so when dawn comes, you won't wake up at the same point. You'll wake up reconfigured, with your soul ordered and your heart in total trust mode, knowing that the Lord shepherds you. You think everything remains the same, but it's not. The moment you opened this video, the moment you said Amen inside, the moment you decided to surrender your night to God as your shepherd, something began to move. Maybe you don't feel it. Maybe there are no signs. Maybe on the outside everything seems the same, but there's a heavenly guidance that began to move, a shepherding that had been waiting for your permission for a long time. This prayer is not just an accompaniment to sleep. It's a seed of change. It's a spiritual push that moves invisible pieces. It's like activating the heavenly guidance that was waiting for your surrender. Changes that seemed impossible before, doors that had closed, answers that never came, are now in motion because God took your path. Because when you pray, even with few words, even when you're tired, even when you don't understand everything, heaven listens and responds. And tonight God is not only hearing your prayer, He's acting as your shepherd. Your family won't stay under attack. Your economy won't sink further. Your health won't be destroyed. Your paths won't be directionless, because there's a new chapter beginning from tonight under the Lord's shepherding. As it is written in Psalm 23, verse 3, He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. If you believe in that, leave an amen in the comments. Do it not as a routine, but as a spiritual sign that you too are ready to let God guide you. And tomorrow, when you wake up, maybe the circumstances haven't changed completely yet, but you will have changed. And that's the first miracle, knowing you no longer walk alone. While you settle in bed, while you try to find a position that gives you rest, there's someone who's already by your side. He didn't knock on the door, didn't make noise, just came closer. Jesus is there. Not to judge you, not to ask why you cried in silence, not to demand answers you don't have. He came as a shepherd who sees his sheep's exhaustion, as a friend who knows the weight you carried all day, as a guide who doesn't abandon his own, even at night. And even though you don't see him, he looks at you with tenderness, and with a voice softer than silence tells you, I'm here. You don't need to say anything. I already know everything. I just want you to rest in me. I shepherd you. Imagine for an instant that scene. Jesus sitting next to your bed, with his hand on your heart, breathing with you, receiving your thoughts without you saying a word. It's not an illusion, it's a spiritual reality, and that's where change begins. Because when you let Jesus embrace you inside as your shepherd, something aligns, something is released, something begins to heal. If you know someone who needs that embrace tonight, share this video. Maybe you can't solve their situation, but you can give them this moment of peace. And while you share it, Jesus is also sharing something with you: peace, rest, and the beginning of a transformation under his guidance. Because no one enters his presence and leaves the same, and neither will you. Tonight marks a before and after, and tomorrow the change will begin to be visible because God shepherded you while you slept. There are nights when the only thing you need is not a solution, but a hug. A place where the soul can stop, a moment where the mind stops running, a refuge where the heart can disarm without fear. And that place exists: the arms of the Father Shepherd. They're not distant or symbolic arms. They're real, invisible to the eyes, but powerful to hold everything that weighs on you tonight. Imagine for an instant that you're a sheep that has had a difficult day. You got lost, you got frustrated, you felt lost, and now, without many words, you run toward your shepherd, and he lifts you, wraps you, and holds you. He doesn't say much, but his hug says it all. I'm with you. I shepherd you. You don't need to understand everything. You only need to know you're not alone. That's how God embraces you tonight, and in that embrace, something begins to change. Your breathing becomes calmer, your heart stops running, your thoughts find rest. Because what the world couldn't console during the day, the Father Shepherd's love begins to heal at night. And while you're there, in silence, in his arms, something happens inside you. Not with shouts, not with signs, but like a soft light that turns on a part that was off. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you won't have just slept. You will have been held and shepherded. And that changes everything. You're going to close your eyes, but Jesus won't. He doesn't sleep. He watches. He watches your thoughts, watches your house, watches your wounds, watches every battle you face. Not because you're in danger without guidance, but because he cares even when there's no apparent threat. Because for a loving shepherd, every night is an opportunity to restore what the day damaged. While you try to fall asleep, he's already repairing what broke. You only see the darkness of the room, but he sees your interior and is illuminating parts that felt empty. Jesus doesn't wait for you to understand everything. He only waits for you to surrender, and you already did. By staying here listening to this prayer, you already made a decision that will change something in you. Maybe you don't feel anything yet. Maybe it seems nothing changed. But the work Jesus is doing as your shepherd is not measured with emotions, but with results that will appear at the perfect time. As it is written in Psalm 23, verse 6, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." And it's not just physical, it's a deep, complete and restorative rest under the Lord's shepherding. Tonight is not just any pause, it's a spiritual movement. It's the beginning of a transformation that will be revealed in tomorrow's details. And if this is touching your heart, share this video with someone who also needs this certainty. Maybe for you it's just another prayer, but for another it can be the beginning of something eternal. Tonight you don't need to have the right words. You don't need a list of petitions or perfect faith. You only need to be here, open, sincere, tired, but willing. There are tears that didn't fall down your cheeks but that you cried inside. There are thoughts you couldn't express, but that stole your sleep. There are burdens you didn't even know you were carrying. And yet, God knows them all, not because you told him, but because he sees the heart even when the mouth is silent. This prayer is not a protocol. It's a bridge between your soul and his presence as your shepherd, between your need and his response, between what you kept quiet and what he already began to transform. Maybe you didn't know how to ask for help. Maybe you just wanted to close your eyes and not think anymore. And right there in that state of exhaustion, Jesus arrived not with complaints but with comfort, not with conditions but with grace. As it is written in Psalm 23 verse 2, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters." But sometimes your loudest cry is your silence filled with faith. And tonight that silence was enough. He heard it, he interpreted it, and he already began to act as your shepherd. You won't see everything tomorrow, but something in you will no longer be the same. Your rest will be different. Your mood upon waking will be new, because the deepest transformation usually begins in the silence of night when you surrender your paths to God. Many see the night as an end, a point where everything turns off, a parenthesis between yesterday and tomorrow. But for God, the night is a field where miracles are planted and where he shepherds souls in silence. Yes, you're tired. Yes, your mind can't go around anymore. But right there, when you release and breathe deeply, a dimension opens that the world doesn't see, but heaven doesn't ignore. Every word you said in this prayer, every sincere thought that rose to the heights, every tear you wiped in silence was a seed, and God is not indifferent to those who sow with faith. Maybe you won't see the answer tomorrow, maybe the change won't be immediate, but at this moment, while you listen, something was deposited in heaven in your favor. Because this prayer is not just to help you sleep, it's to activate a new cycle in your life. A cycle where God will give you direction, where you'll feel more clarity, where burdens won't weigh on you the same because you know he shepherds you. Tonight is marked by heaven, not for what you did, but for what you decided to surrender. And that changes everything. Don't underestimate the power of what you're doing now. While others seek distraction, you chose to surrender. While others sleep without peace, you're planting rest, answers, and miracles under God's guidance. And when the day dawns, the atmosphere will be different. You will be different. You don't need to say anything anymore. You've opened your heart. You've surrendered what you could and what you couldn't too. Now it's Jesus who approaches. Not with noise, not in a hurry, with tenderness, like a shepherd who enters the fold at the end of the day, sits next to his sheep, observes her with love, and extends a blanket over her. But this blanket is not wool or cotton. It's God's peace. A peace that doesn't depend on what you live today or what will come tomorrow. It's a peace that covers your mind, your body, and your spirit. And while you settle in, while your eyes are closing little by little, something inside you begins to truly rest, because it's not just the body that surrenders, it's the soul that yields. As it is written in Psalm 23 verse 1, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." No matter how your day started, no matter what you didn't manage to resolve tonight, it's not about that. It's about who's holding you. It's about who watches over you. It's about who's covering you now. And that someone is Jesus, who transforms while you sleep, who shepherds invisible paths, who brings light even before dawn. Rest, because tonight doesn't end like the others. Tonight begins a change, and you already took the first step. The night may be silent, but your mind isn't. Your body is in bed, but your soul is still walking. And it's right there where this powerful promise from Psalm 23 verses 2 and 3 comes in. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. The peace God promises is not just physical rest. It's rest of the soul. It's that feeling of security that can't be explained, but is felt. It's knowing that even though the day was difficult, God hasn't changed. Maybe today you went through worries that weren't resolved. Maybe your thoughts went around all day, but tonight is a pause. A pause so it's not you who fixes everything, but God who takes control while you rest. And it's not about forgetting problems, but trusting that there's someone greater taking care of you, shepherding you. Jesus doesn't need you to understand everything, just to trust. That's the true transformation that happens in prayer. It doesn't always change circumstances immediately, but it changes how you face them. And that's already a miracle, a silent miracle, like the one that's beginning to happen right now while you listen to this prayer. If you feel you need a spiritual transformation, write "Enlighten me" in the comments. Do it as an act of faith, like someone opening the door to rest, like someone daring to say, "Tonight I don't walk alone anymore because God is my shepherd, and tonight something has already begun to change." There are nights when sleeping is not easy. The body lies down, but the mind keeps moving. Thoughts, questions, fears, insecurities. And without realizing it, your bed becomes a silent battlefield. But listen to this truth written centuries ago and still alive today in Psalm 23 verse 4. "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." This verse is not a pretty phrase to hang on the wall. It's a shield. It's a declaration for those who decide not to surrender to the chaos of the mind, but to trust in the heart. Sleeping in peace is not a sign that everything is resolved. It's a sign that you've decided to trust even when you don't understand. It's closing your eyes knowing that God doesn't close his, and that he shepherds you. It's letting heaven do what you can no longer do. And you know something. That's what you're doing now. Every word you hear, every deep sigh, every thought that surrenders is one more step toward true rest. You're not sleeping to escape. You're sleeping like someone who says, "My soul no longer needs to fight because my God watches over me and guides me." And while your mind quiets, heaven works. The change you're waiting for at dawn won't only begin when you open your eyes, but now, when you decide to trust. Write in the comments, "I trust you, Lord. You shepherd me." It's not a routine, it's a spiritual way of surrendering and receiving, because rest is also a form of prayer. And tonight your prayer is, "I trust you as my shepherd." There are things that aren't noticed at first glance. People who laugh during the day and cry in silence at night. Souls who walk strong on the outside, but inside are exhausted. And many times that anxiety is not expressed with words, it's expressed with a tense body, with insomnia, with an accelerated heart. But listen to this verse. Don't repeat it as a duty. Make it yours right now, deep in your soul. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. God is not far from your anxiety. He doesn't tell you, "Get over it." He tells you, "Surrender it." You don't need to solve everything tonight. You only need to recognize that there are things you can no longer hold and that he can take them for you and shepherd your life. What would happen if you release what's stealing your peace? What would happen if instead of thinking about it 1,000 times again, you decide to give it to God with a simple phrase? "Lord, I can't handle this. I give it to you. Guide me." That, even if it seems small, is an act of transformation. That's where the change begins that you'll feel at dawn. Not when something outside you changes, but when something inside you is freed. Tonight is not a punishment. It's a door. And every prayer you make, every word you whisper, every tear you surrender, is a key that opens space for peace that comes from God. Write in the comments, "I trust you, Lord. You shepherd me." Do it like someone putting their burden on the altar, like someone trusting that even if they don't understand, they're not alone. Jesus is here as your shepherd and he takes care of you. Have you ever tried to find peace by observing your circumstances? Did you realize how everything constantly changes? One day you feel in control, and the next, everything seems to slip from your hands. But the peace God offers doesn't depend on what happens outside. It's born from a secret place, the place where your mind aligns with trust in God as your shepherd. That's what Psalm 23 verse 2 talks about. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Notice, it's not partial rest, it's complete rest in delicate pastures. Not a momentary truce, but a serenity that sustains. And how is that peace reached? By trusting, by persisting in turning your thoughts toward God as your shepherd, even when anxiety tries to dominate. Maybe you tried to silence your thoughts with distractions, or maybe with effort trying to solve everything alone. But now it's different. Now you're here in prayer. You're surrendering, trusting, resting, and that changes everything. That prayer you're making, that silent surrender, is opening a path that goes beyond what you feel. You may not perceive it now, but peace is being planted, and at dawn it will bloom. Let this word continue resonating in you. Imagine it as a blanket that wraps your mind. He makes me lie down in green pastures. That promise is yours, and it's here, tonight, where it begins to be fulfilled. There's a spiritual decision hidden in the simplest things, and one of them is this: going to bed with faith, resting your head on the pillow, closing your eyes, and choosing to trust that God will continue working as your shepherd, even when you can't see. Psalm 23 verse 1 reminds us with power and tenderness, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." That verse is not just a pretty phrase, it's a declaration of surrender. It's a way of saying, even though the world out there continues agitated, even though I don't have all the answers, my soul rests because you are with me, shepherding me. True transformation doesn't happen when everything is resolved. It begins when you decide to trust even without seeing, When you surrender and confess with your heart, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Maybe today you didn't see concrete changes, but this prayer is activating something. There's an invisible movement underway. Tomorrow can surprise you. And if there's a way to prepare for that miracle, it's this: sleeping in peace, trusting like a sheep in the arms of the Good Shepherd. Because the one who guards you doesn't sleep, and while you rest, he acts. If this word spoke to your heart, write in the comments, "I trust you, Lord, you shepherd me." Declare it like someone signing a spiritual contract, like someone accepting the gift God is delivering tonight. There are moments when everything seems the same. You pray and silence remains, you surrender, and circumstances don't move. But what the eyes don't see, faith discerns, because there are things that begin invisibly, like the root that grows before the tree emerges, like the sun that approaches before dawn. And that's the promise for tonight. You're not praying in vain. Repeat now with faith. The miracle has already begun, even though my eyes don't see it. Say it like someone turning on a light in the middle of darkness, like someone refusing to believe that waiting is a waste of time. While you listen to this prayer, seeds are being watered, chains are being broken in the invisible, paths are being aligned so the new finds you at dawn. You don't need to feel something extraordinary. The change this prayer activates doesn't depend on emotion, but on the faith with which you believe even without seeing. And if that faith is in you, declare it firmly now. I don't fear the night. God is with me, shepherding me. Because whoever trusts rests, and whoever rests wakes up with testimonies. And that's what's going to happen to you. Have you ever thought about how many times you went through the night without realizing the care that protected you? How many threats were kept away while you slept? How many worries never became reality because someone watched over you and shepherded you? That's the truth that changes everything. Jesus doesn't sleep. He watches over you. And not like a distant guard, but like an intimate friend who sits at the foot of your bed and says, "Rest. I take care of what worries you. I shepherd your life." Maybe today your heart is agitated. Maybe you're afraid of what's coming tomorrow. Maybe your mind tells you nothing will change. But there's a voice louder than fear. There's a presence stronger than anxiety. There's a promise that resists even doubt. I lie down and sleep peacefully because Jesus watches over me and shepherds my life. Say it now. Repeat it with faith. Write it in the comments if you wish. Jesus watches over me and shepherds my life. That phrase, though simple, activates trust in your interior. It positions you to sleep with lightness, with hope, with the certainty that tonight will be different because you're no longer alone. And the one who doesn't sleep is stronger than everything that scares you. Sleep with this truth tattooed on your heart, and wake up tomorrow with signs of the care that never fails. There are prayers that don't change the world, but change the soul of the one who prays. And when the soul changes, the whole world transforms around. You don't need pretty words. You don't need to know verses by heart. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be willing to say with sincerity, "Lord, I don't understand everything, but I trust you as my shepherd." And that's already enough for heaven to move. Remember that a prayer made with the heart has eternal weight, transcends the walls of logic, silences accusation, and plants hope in the midst of pain. Today you can sleep with one less weight, with the certainty that the simple fact of having prayed has already begun to move what was stagnant. Nothing remains the same after a sincere prayer. Not you, not your house, not your paths. Because where there's prayer, there's transformation. And if this prayer is happening now, expect changes, expect answers. Expect to wake up tomorrow with signs of God's faithfulness as your shepherd. Can you declare this with faith? Say, "Tonight I pray, and tomorrow I'll see the change." Not every miracle begins with noise. Sometimes it begins in the silence of a whispered prayer. Sometimes it's invisible to the eyes, but real in the spirit. The miracle has already begun. Even though nothing seems to have changed, even though you still feel the weight, the pain, the weight, God doesn't need to announce when he begins to act. He works in secret. While you sleep, he works. While you're silent, he's already organizing what seemed impossible. Declare with faith now, "The miracle has already begun, even though my eyes don't see it." Because faith doesn't see with eyes, but with inner certainty that heaven has already answered and God is already shepherding your life. And maybe tomorrow you'll wake up and everything will seem the same, but your heart will know, something changed inside me. Something began tonight. That certainty is what sustains you. That peace that arrived is God's signature saying, I'm in control, my child. Just believe. I shepherd you. Sleep with that conviction. Wake up with expectation. The miracle is already underway. While you try to relax and close your eyes, there's a gaze that never turns away from you. There's a presence that doesn't move away for a second. There's someone who watches over your rest. Jesus. He's now beside your bed, not to demand anything from you, but to remind you that you're not alone. Maybe you faced a difficult day. Maybe you feel tired, hurt, exhausted. But Jesus is here and he didn't come to complain. He came to console. He didn't come to judge. He came to care. He came to shepherd you. You can say with faith, Jesus, watch over me, shepherd my life. Repeat it as many times as necessary until your soul understands it, until fear dissipates, until the heart beats in peace again. That phrase is more than a declaration. It's a spiritual reality. You're not helpless. You're not at the mercy of anxiety. You're under the care of the one who never sleeps. And if he watches over you, then you can sleep. Close your eyes with that certainty. Tomorrow, when dawn comes, you'll not only feel rested, you'll feel protected, transformed, and deeply loved because God shepherded you. There are nights that seem longer than others, not because of the hours, but because of the weight. The weight of what was lost, the weight of what wasn't said, the weight of what is remembered just when the house turns off and everything is silent. Maybe you're there now, fighting against guilt that no one sees, remembering promises that weren't kept, crying for something that no longer returns. But listen to me. Jesus is in this room, not only to console you, but to restore you and to shepherd you. Sometimes we think rest only comes when the problem disappears, but true rest comes when Jesus touches the place where it hurts. And when he touches, nothing remains the same. Your tears are not weakness, they're seeds. Each one that falls today can bloom tomorrow in the form of peace, healing, miracle. Tonight, don't hide your pain. Don't force yourself to appear that you're fine. Jesus doesn't need masks. He needs sincerity. Close your eyes now and tell him, Jesus, this hurts me, but I surrender it to you. Shepherd my life. And in that simple act, healing begins. Because yes, tonight can be the beginning of a change, not only outside, inside. Leave written in the comments, tonight I surrender to your healing, you shepherd me. There are wounds that don't bleed, but burn inside. Memories that don't show up on an X-ray, but take away your sleep. Has it happened to you? Maybe it was a word that marked you, a betrayal you still don't understand, a silence that hurt more than a shout. And now you're here trying to sleep, but your soul is still awake, reliving what should have already healed. Let me tell you something that can change your night. Jesus knows what no one else knows and doesn't judge you. He embraces you. He doesn't ask why you didn't overcome it. He extends his hand to lift you up, doesn't demand explanations. He offers restoration. Tonight you're not alone. There's a God who specializes in making all things new, and you're not the exception. Breathe deeply and tell him, Jesus, touch what I can no longer hide. Shepherd this battle in my interior. And let his love enter the deepest place. Because true healing doesn't begin in the body, it begins in the soul. And when the soul rests under God's shepherding, dawn comes with renewed strength. There are nights when everything seems to be in ruins. Broken dreams, relationships that went out, doors that closed without explanation. And one thinks, there's no turning back. What broke has no fix. But that's not what Jesus says. He takes the pieces, gathers them with tenderness, and where you see scars, he sees space to pour out his glory. Maybe you already lost hope, but God hasn't lost it with you. He keeps believing in you, keeps seeing what others don't see. Tonight, while everyone sleeps, Jesus works in silence, repairing what seemed irrecoverable, not with force, but with love, because what the world discards, Jesus restores. And you know what's the sign that restoration has already begun? Your decision to pray tonight, your surrender, your faith in God as your shepherd, even if it's small. Change doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it begins with tears, but it will end in joy at dawn. Maybe you think everything will change when the sun rises, that the answer will come tomorrow. that relief will come with daylight. But Jesus doesn't need to wait for dawn to begin the miracle. He acts in darkness. In the silence of this night, he's already removing what oppressed you, closing wounds no one else understood, freeing your mind from thoughts that stole your rest. Because when you decide to pray, when you say, "Lord, here I am, shepherd me," something changes in the atmosphere. A new atmosphere surrounds you, and even though it seems everything remains the same, it's not. Tonight your soul was touched. What tormented you before no longer has the same strength. Guilt lost its voice. Anxiety is losing territory. Sadness no longer has power over you. Jesus has entered your room as your shepherd, and when he enters, nothing remains the same. What seemed like an end today was just a divine pause, a necessary space so God could intervene. And he did. Maybe not in the way you expected, but in the way you needed most. Tonight, while you prayed, God began to rebuild what had broken. The words that came from your heart weren't lost in the air. They were gathered by a Father who not only listens, responds. Jesus didn't wait for dawn to start your change. He did it now, in this instant, while you surrendered. The process may not finish tonight, but the miracle has already begun, and that's enough for you to sleep in peace. Because while you sleep, the work continues, and when you wake up, your eyes will see what your faith believed. Tonight wasn't just any night, it was the beginning of your testimony. Imagine for a moment, you're lying in silence with your eyes closed, and suddenly, without words, you feel a presence. It's not imagination, it's Jesus. He entered your room tonight. He didn't come to judge you, didn't come to complain about what you did wrong. He came to do what no one else could, cover your soul with peace. Without touching you physically, you feel him wrap your whole body with a soft mantle, as if a warm light descended from the ceiling and lodged in your chest. Your breathing becomes slower, your mind stops running, and in the deepest place, something aligns. Jesus is not standing at a distance, he's beside you, sitting on the edge of the bed with his hand on your heart. He doesn't say anything, but you understand everything. He came to give you rest, and with that rest also came a promise. Tomorrow won't be the same because this prayer opened a spiritual portal. Tonight doesn't end in darkness, it ends with light. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for the new dawn. God shepherds me." And share this moment with someone who also needs to feel this change. You don't need to see it yet to feel it. While you listen to this prayer, something happened in your interior that words can't describe. A door opened, a weight was lifted, a path was illuminated. Maybe you didn't perceive it with intensity, but your soul knows. Something changed. There's a transformation happening right now. It's not visible, it's not measurable, but it's real. And that transformation doesn't depend on your emotions or your strength. It depends on God's faithfulness as your shepherd. He promised to guide you, to restore you, to care for you, and he's fulfilling it now. You don't need to wait until tomorrow to believe it. You can rest tonight knowing the miracle is already underway. The change you were waiting for didn't start at dawn. It started here, in this prayer, in this surrender, in this moment of faith. When God breaks a bond, he doesn't leave a void. He fills that space with something new. Where there was fear before, now there's hope. Where there was confusion before, now there's clarity. And where it hurt before, now it begins to heal. Maybe you won't feel it immediately, but this prayer is planting a new reality within you. And what seems invisible today will be testimony tomorrow. It doesn't matter how many times you failed, how many times you tried to change and couldn't, because what you can't achieve with your strength, God does in silence while you sleep. The old no longer defines you. That thought of, "I'll never change," falls away now. You're not repeating an empty prayer. You're activating a promise of new life, of broken bonds, of chains turned to dust at Jesus' feet. Make this declaration now. Tonight, the past loses its power over me. God shepherds my future. Your story doesn't end where the pain began. Tonight you won't just sleep, you'll begin to be reborn. There are nights that don't just heal, they transform. Nights when the soul encounters something that can't be explained. Not a dream, not a passing feeling, but a silent certainty. I'm no longer the same. And that certainty can arrive right now in the middle of silence. While these words gently enter your spirit, because God is sealing something in you, sealing the end of a stage, sealing the healing that began tonight, sealing with His peace what was previously territory of chaos. You won't lose it. It won't disappear when dawn comes. You won't wake up the same. Because this prayer is not just a balm, it's a mark that God touched you, that He was here with you, shepherding you, and you can sleep with this truth. I'm marked by God's peace. He shepherds my life. Declare it. Write it if you believe it. Nothing and no one will take this peace from me. God is my shepherd. There are battles that won't return. There are chains that won't be forged again, because when God breaks, He also rebuilds. Sleep now confident, light, different. There are nights when it seems nothing happens. No signs, no answers, no visible comfort, only silence. And it's right there where many give up. They think, God didn't answer me. My prayer wasn't enough. But today, I want to tell you something different. Silence is not absence, it's preparation. When everything is quiet on the outside, God is moving things on the inside. When you hear nothing, it's because heaven is focused, working in the depths. Look at how a seed germinates, in hiding, in silence, without applause, without witnesses, and yet it becomes a tree. That's the miracle that has already begun in you. Invisible, but unstoppable. Silent, but real. Don't give up for not feeling. Don't give up for not seeing, because the miracle God is preparing tonight doesn't depend on your emotions, but on His faithfulness as your shepherd. Sleep peacefully. Tonight's silence is full of promises under construction, and you can declare with faith right now, I believe in what God is doing, even though I don't see it yet. He shepherds me. You know why the miracle often takes time? Because God doesn't work with anxiety, but with purpose. You see delay, but He sees maturity. You see an empty space, but He already placed a seed there. And that seed is this prayer. Your prayer today won't disappear in the wind. It goes to the ground, to that secret place where only God can touch. And there the transformation begins. While you sleep, God is watering what you planted with faith. And even though tomorrow you still don't see the tree, something will already be different inside you. Anxiety will start to lose strength. Sadness will no longer be so heavy. Fear, the one that pursued you so much, will no longer have the last word. Because when God plants, it's to make it grow. And what He's cultivating tonight, no one will be able to uproot. So don't despise the silence or underestimate the night. Both are scenarios where God works in hiding, shepherding paths you don't see. Maybe tonight you feel everything weighs more on you, that thoughts spin around, and you don't know how to turn them off. But listen carefully. What weighs so much on you today, tomorrow can be the testimony that blesses others. God doesn't only transform the external, He transforms your way of seeing. Your pain now is not punishment, it's fertile ground for a new vision. That tear no one saw, that prayer you made without words, that deep sigh that only you and God know. All of that will be used by heaven. There is no useless suffering when you surrender it to God. He gathers every fragment of your soul and converts it into purpose. The pain that made you silent will be the voice that tomorrow will lift up others. And tonight, even if you don't understand the process, you can make a simple prayer. Lord, use even my pain for something good. Shepherd this battle. God doesn't waste a single tear, not one. And if today you don't see the why, tomorrow you'll understand the what for. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, feel the weight of the day releasing little by little. You don't need to say anything more. God has already heard your soul. This prayer wasn't just a moment. It was a silent transformation. While you listened, God touched places you didn't even know needed healing. The peace that now surrounds you doesn't come from words, it comes from presence. Jesus was here sitting beside you, listening to every silence, welcoming every unshed tear. And now He invites you to sleep, not as one who flees, but as one who trusts. Repeat with me as a farewell to anxiety. Lord, I surrender to your peace. Tonight I rest in you. You shepherd me. Heaven will continue working. Angels will still be around, and that miracle has already begun. As it is written in Psalm 23 verse 6, Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And when dawn comes, you'll make this word yours. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. It's not presumption, it's promise. Tonight, God has shepherded you. He has guided your life, and tomorrow when you wake up you'll see the signs of His protective hand. Good night, and may the dawn find you in peace, knowing that God shepherded your life while you slept. Amen.